Welcome to today's webinar, which is Navigating the Future of Aviation Recruitment, which is brought to you by SkyForce. Today I'm joined by Carlo of SkyForce. We're going to be going through the future of recruitment and what's going to be happening. So sit back, listen, any questions, pop them in the chats, and we'll try and get back to answering them as we go through or at the end. So firstly, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as well.
First question I'm going to ask you is what led to SkyForce?
Good question. I've been in the industry now for about 20 plus years. I know I don't look like it, but 20 plus years in the industry. And I've seen a lot come and go over the time. And for me, there was a few areas I really wanted to change. I wanted to have some input to make things quicker, make it a bit easier. And one of the biggest bugbears, I think, for the industry has been how long things take to get over the line. And the bottom line is a lot of that's admin and the teams are drowning in it, and we wanted to strip that out.
With that, what is the mission then so far? Like, what is your mission with SkyForce?
So you've probably seen the sign behind us as well. We're looking to elevate our game. So I want my recruiters to be able to spend time doing the actual recruitment, talking to candidates, talking to clients, rather than spending their time filling in CRMs, updating CVs, and all the peripheral tasks that go with recruitment. And to do that, we're looking to leverage technology. So we're bringing in artificial intelligence, agentic AI, and looking at new tech that can allow my team to do that. On top of that, I'm also trying to make sure that not only do the candidates get more face time with my team and the clients get more face time, but they're also getting treated better. They've got a well-being approach to our solutions as well. And we're looking to give back to the planet with our tree planting schemes as well.
Would you say that the whole start to finish part of recruitment at the moment is very outdated and archaic then?
100%. I think there is a shift happening just now. There's a shift across all industry. I think you can see AI's been in the news for the last few years, but I think recruitment's been a bit slow on the uptake. And this is where we need to be clear that it's not AI taking over recruitment. We're looking at AI taking over those tasks that take a long time.
Because I can imagine there's a lot of people out there that are going to be saying, "Oh, it's AI, it's the buzzword, it's this, it's that." I've been involved in recruitment for a while now, and I've seen as well, like, there are a lot of monotonous tasks that could be sped up, whether or not it's looking through CVs, like when you're going through the hiring process, what can you do? Sometimes it can lead to candidate also having a bad experience. So is that something that you kind of look at, taking all the experiences that you've had in your 20 plus years and thinking, this is what we're going to build?
That's exactly that. You get feedback from candidates when they're going through a process. You get feedback from clients when you're doing, especially the volume recruitment as well. You can get a lot of data quite quickly, but you sort of add all that up over 20 years, and you can see that where it breaks down is the interaction. And a lot of that is because you're not really fully focused on that interaction. You're trying to remember, I'm taking notes for this, I'm adding up information for that, I've got to think about the next conversation I'm having. But you're also got time constraints. As a human, you can only have one conversation at a time.
So what was the moment that's made you think, this isn't right, this isn't working, we're going to do something different, or I'm going to do something different?
It's actually a bit of a story. I was at the end of my tenure with my previous employer, and I'd had all these ideas that I wanted to implement at the time, and we just couldn't. It was quite a large scale organization, and to get things over the line, there's a lot of red tape. And so this was an opportunity, I think, for me to go, well, this is what I want to do, and this is the angle and the approach I want to take on it. I've got a blank slate, and so I thought, let's run with that. Let's give it a go and create SkyForce Talent Solutions.
You use the words red tape. It's obviously that is a hurdle with any business. But how are you going to kind of address that, especially considering you're bringing a product to market that needs aggressive development?
Yeah, red tape's there regardless of the industry you're in, and I think the bigger the organisation, the more red tape there is, the more decision makers there are. I think where we're got a little bit of a niche is like we're a small organisation that's setting up from scratch, but we're also got legacy knowledge. You know, we've got the team that have come from an aviation background. We've got myself that's got 20 years in recruitment as well. And from a decision making point of view, we can be a lot more agile because we know what we want to implement and we can decide, does this work? We can test it, we can experiment, and if it isn't working, we can change, we can adapt. The partnerships that we've formed to help develop SkyForce talent are also young industries and young companies who are very agile and open to experimentation. And that's where I think we need to be playing. We need to be fluid in this industry. AI is changing continuously, technology is changing like overnight. And so we need to make sure that we can adapt to make sure we're staying ahead of not just the competition, but ahead of the technology if we can.
Cool. How do you kind of look at it from an outsider's perspective looking in? Do you kind of think that people are looking at it and think, oh, this is a fad or like a buzz thing that's going to fade away? Or what would you say to that?
I don't think AI is going to fade away, and we're not leveraging AI as the future recruiter. Go back to my previous comment about this is to do those tasks that take up a lot of time. When we're looking to leverage AI, it's for things like outreach, it's for things like collating data en masse at speed. When you've got one human that's trying to do all of that, it takes hours and hours and hours to get those tasks done. AI can do it multiple times, thousands of times in minutes at the same time. So as a fad, I don't think it's going to be a fad. Everything else has got AI built into it. You know, there's ChatGPT. I think TVs are now getting AI built in. You've got Alexa in the house that's going to start tweaking itself and getting a few different developments over time. I think it's something we just need to get used to working with. And I suppose this is one of the things I want candidates to understand as well. Recruitment is changing, and there will be a need to not have conversations, but engage with AI and agentic AI in particular.
Cool. We've had a conversation, when you arrived, and that was around, do you think that the CV is kind of dead in today's era with ChatGPT and things like that? How do you kind of like look at AI handling sort of those sort of scenarios?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? AI can obviously read things on scale and do it really quickly, but the problem you've got with AI and like ChatGPT and all the other elements out there is a CV can be made up quite quickly, and it's about digging into the data and the detail behind that. And this is where that human interaction is key. Do I think CV's dead? Probably. But this is again why human interaction and spending time face to face with candidates, whether that's virtual face to face or on the phone, it's very important to make sure you can dig into the data behind what's written. There will always be a case for having a track record of your experience, but to dig into it in a bit more detail, that's where I think the human can come in.
You're involved in quite a breadth of industries within aviation, so whether or not it's the MROs or all the way through to defence, and sort of roles that you're helping to place candidates in. Do you think that the shortage of talent in the industry is something that you'll be able to help address by just uncovering talent that is there, but it's just hard to find because you can't do it en masse?
Our solution will be able to uncover the talent that's hidden. There are candidates out there that we just don't see. They're not on job boards. They're not applying for jobs actively. So the technology will be able to find those candidates. Will it close the gap on the skill shortages? No, there's a bigger issue with the skill shortages, and that's where the end users, the clients that we have, really probably need to be focusing more on what's coming through the pipeline, from schools and STEM education perspective, and making sure that there are, it's an exciting industry to move into. It is a sexy industry that people think, that sounds cool, I want to go to that. As it stands, the talent that's out there is it's finite. There's not a lot that's been coming through since COVID because, that fear of, do I still have a role to play, or are there other industries that are a little bit more safe than aviation in terms of continuity of role? So I think there are things to do within the industry that we need from a talent pipelining, but for the moment, the tools we've got can find the talent quicker and therefore address some of our clients' needs.
So you've got your solution that's coming. What can people look to do then when the talent pool is starting to dry up? Do they, traditional recruiters, would they come to somebody like you and you uncover it, or?
I think this is where the EVP comes into play as well. From a client perspective, are you positioning yourself as an employer of choice? When there's a niche market and there's a skills shortage, the candidate has a choice on where they go. And it's not all about salary and paying the most. It's about culture, it's about environment, it's about how you give back to that the employee when they start with you, all the way through from onboarding to how you take care of them when they're leaving a business as well. So the offboarding and their well-being in between. So I think there's so many more factors outside of just a paycheck at the end of the day that can help an employer source the talent and make them attractive.
How do you think people should be doing that? Do you think that should be like the starting point rather than just like, here's the job, this is the salary? Do you feel that culture should be the leading factor on that?
Absolutely. I think in terms of your own housekeeping. What do we do as a standard approach before you're even looking to recruit? Let's make sure our current team are happy, because you're needing to recruit typically either because you are increasing a product or a volume that's output, or you've got talent that's leaving. And if you've got talent that's leaving, then you've got to address the housekeeping elements and making sure that what's going on within your own business is somewhere people want to work. The culture comes down to that probably more than anything.
How do you get that across to your clients then? Of like, you really need to reinforce this.
That's part of what we do day to day. It's like that consultative approach and trying to support them in ways to help with retention rather than addressing the attrition issues. It's like, well, let's start at the front end and how do we help you keep your talent longer as well as attract new talent.
Where do you feel that traditional recruitment's fallen short?
Good question. For me, it's candidates aren't just a number. There's a lack of personalization in the industry, and when you're coming through a recruitment process, you want that experience to be a positive one, and you want to feel like the person at the end of that recruitment line is actually interested in who you are and the skills you've got and what you can add to the company. So for me, there's a huge piece on personalization and being genuine with that candidate and making sure they feel important as part of the role.
Yeah, I would say that the bit that we hit on earlier about culture is quite a big part that I think a lot of employers are not getting straight away.
Yeah, there is an element of that. I think there is also a process doesn't need to be 15 stages. Yes, we've got a lot of compliance in our industry, but we need to be working more at pace. And I think this is one of the things that is crippling the industry. It's taking far too long to get a candidate through a process. And when you've got so many competitors for that same talent, they've got options. Again, we talked about it earlier, they've got options of where they can go. And if you are one of the ones that has more of a protracted process, then you're going to lose to someone who's going quicker.
What would your advice be to somebody that does have a longer, protracted process?
Try and understand why it's protracted, first of all, and see where you can streamline it, because there will be areas that you're probably doing that are more of a tick box exercise, whereas is it a need to have or is it a nice to have is probably the big question to ask yourself.
Yeah, it ends up being one of those things that over a period of time you end up adding another layer, and actually one of the hardest things is people kind of lose the enthusiasm. You've applied for something, but 15 weeks later going through another round, another interview, you can see why people fall out the process right towards the very, very end.
Oh, 100%. And it's not just about it. If I've got a request to upload my CV, and then I have to log into something, and it's asking me the same questions that were on my CV. It's like, where's the technology there that can actually take that and pass the information into your ATS, for example? Do you need me to go through that step again? You probably don't. The tools are there to tweak it. Yes, there's probably a little bit of investment that's required at times, but I think it's also about where are we duplicating the process. And this is where hopefully, from a SkyForce perspective, we can lighten the load for our clients by taking a lot of that admin work and giving that back to that time back to the candidate, but also to our clients and the employers.
Do you pass the data back into their ATS?
We can do, yeah.
So that's obviously quite a big thing. Everyone likes to keep it in-house and in their own way as well. So you've spoken about AI. You've spoken about how it's part of the driving force behind what it is you're looking to do, and how it's really going to take on recruitment moving forward. You give us a pretty good example of it. But you introduced Ava to me earlier. Can you explain to everybody who or what Ava is?
Yeah, Ava is our agent, so she's agentic AI, and she's 24/7 available in terms of candidates can apply from anywhere in the world, and they don't need to wait till we are in the office, so to speak. They can get a response straight away. The CV can be screened, their application process can be started, and what we can then do with the candidate coming in is back and forth chat very quickly. I mean, we're used to doing it when you try to get your TV fixed. You have that chat function already, the chatbot. Similar to that, we can do it via WhatsApp or email or SMS, and Ava can chat in 99 different languages as well. So it takes away the need, if you like, for having a team on standby the whole time if you're wanting to address something in the moment. But it also gives you the instant fluid motion of being able to address that challenge, talk to that candidate in the moment. I've applied, I'm not waiting 12 hours for a response, I'm getting an instant response. And that is where you tend to find where the biggest drop off is. A candidate will put their CV over the line or an application, and if you've got to wait overnight, they finish the shift at 10 o'clock at night and they've applied for a new job, my team will come in the morning, typically standard traditional way of doing it, and send a message back. You're then waiting till they finish shift at 10 o'clock the next night before you get a response back from them, and that cycle continues. If they're online and they're applying for a job, Ava can have that chat straight away, back and forth, start a pre-screen. Oh, you've applied for this job, do you have X, Y, Z? Yes, you do. Ava can then look at the interviewer's calendar and say, well, here's the available slots for tomorrow and the next day. Do any of them fit for you? And the candidate can be booked into his interview, her interview the next morning. Team come in and they have that conversation there and then. So where a normal process without Ava would probably take 5-6 days to get the interview lined up, based on back and forth, we can have all set up, less than 12 hours, overnight, candidate's good to go.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
How far, I mean, you said that Ava does the pre-screening and you get to that point. How many questions, how does the questioning process work to get her to the point, or them to the point, that they are ready to book somebody in for an interview?
That's all dependent on what job they're applying for. Those that have got a little bit more compliance requirements and a little bit of skills that are must-haves might have 5-6 questions. You might have simpler questioning process and pre-screens for the roles that aren't as high profile or high compliance level. But the key is that it's much quicker to get a response. Do you have this? Yes, no. You're not asking for, can you tell me what you have, and they're having to come up with a response to you. We're simple knockout questions that you've got in any standard pre-screen process. It's just being asked instantly via a platform that most candidates are now familiar with, either WhatsApp or SMS, and it's instantaneous.
WhatsApp definitely has become something that's become more of a commercial product than just messaging my friends.
Yeah.
Starting to see it in a lot of other areas as well. Also, the open rates are considerably higher.
Absolutely.
Than with email, because there's been some changes to email law, and Apple and Android have all got their different ways of dealing with email clients as well now. So you do tend to hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I never got a reply back from you," or it was in junk mail, or it was somewhere else. So
and sorry, you just said something really relevant there as well. That reply back, you're getting guaranteed engagement. Whereas if you are applying for a job and your application may fall into a black hole, they've filled their booking, they don't need to respond to the other 300 applicants. That's not a good candidate experience. Whereas with this experience, Ava can talk to hundreds of candidates at one time. The human can't do that. Whereas, so if there is 300 applicants, all 300 applicants will have engagement, will have a response, and will at least feel that they've had a process or a fair chance to join the process.
And how have candidates felt interacting with Ava to start with?
I think it's going well. It's one of those, again, it's something most people are already used to, especially if you're filling in chatbot responses. The fact that Ava can talk in 99 or speak in 99 different languages is something that we found really useful. Again, for us not having to have someone who can speak all those languages, from our perspective, it saves us a lot of money as well, because there's investment in teams, so we can afford to have a smaller team to speak to more candidates at the same time.
And how the staff felt about using it as well, because obviously you're speeding up the traditional methods, and you've got a happy candidate coming through at that point because they've already potentially booked into an interview. How are the staff feeling when they come in the next day to see part of their work's been done?
We've got a happy team. They're feeling more productive, and I think that's the biggest challenge when you've got a team of recruiters that have been used to a way of working. The output isn't typically what you'd want from your day-to-day. So they're coming in and speaking to candidates daily now, rather than having to go out to the market, send messages out, wait for a response. They are able just to hit the ground running, talk to candidates, qualify or not, and then move on to the next one. But what they're finding is that they are able to have a more personalised conversation and more engaged conversation, because they're not thinking about, I've now got to fill in the CRN system, I've now got to put all this data together. It's in the moment, talking to a candidate, and it's all recorded for you, and they can speak to the next person.
How Ava sounds amazing. Happy clients, happy team. How the clients perceived it from their perspective, like from what they've seen?
I think what the clients are finding is we are much more responsive as a result. We are able to take an order from a client of, I need X, and by the next day you've got candidates in your inbox that are meeting the criteria, that were hard to find, but we've managed to uncover them, engage with them, screen them, and get them in front of you much quicker than a traditional method that we used to follow as well. So I think to answer your question, clients are feeling that there's much more pace behind what we do now.
I guess that's what you don't want, is sitting there waiting, can you go away and find me this, or can you do this? It's the most effective, come back with a really effective of means of bringing new people into the business.
Absolutely.
What's next for Ava then?
Next for Ava, we're looking to develop the ability to have a conversation on the phone. So the technology's there, and we are speaking with our partners about how we can leverage that. So there will be VoIP calls going out to give an alternative screening method rather than WhatsApp, back and forth, or SMS. We can still do the same pre-screen, but over the phone.
That's quite scary, isn't it?
In 99 languages.
Well, it's scary when you think about it. You'll be having a conversation with something that you don't realise it's not real, but it's a meaningful conversation as well.
Yeah, but I think we will be positioning the conversation as you're having a conversation with Ava, who is our AI agentic admin assistant. So it's crystal clear. You're not talking to a human, and it'll be an experience.
I think it definitely will be an experience when you're having those sorts of conversations.
Yeah.
Cool. It definitely sounds like Ava is quite the formidable force already.
She is, absolutely.
With everything we've kind of spoken about AI, you've just spoken about Ava being able to hopefully in the future do telephone calls and have a chat with you. Do you feel that this will kind of be more of a colder approach? How do you keep the approach warm of AI and keeping that human touch in there at the same time.
Again, this is where we're crystal clear that Ava will not be taking over the recruitment process. It's literally the front end of the sifting, the introduction piece. When it comes to the interview, that's always with a human, and it's always with one of my recruitment team, making sure that they are validating, they're talking to the candidate feels that they're getting FaceTime, because right now, not every candidate in a traditional method actually gets FaceTime, actually has an interview. That's a lot of email back and forth, and they'll get put forward to a client. We're making sure that every single person that we go through the process is getting that time with a human and having that face-to-face time.
Cool. Have you got an example of where having Ava in place already has managed to get you to a point where it's done something that a human couldn't do and has blown you away?
Yeah, there's multiple examples. I think the main ones where it's volume, you've got the outreach potential. We've got a role that comes through, a job description that comes in from the sales team. Ava can create the job description. It can then go into our database and give us 100 candidates that match that, more than that, if they're available, and say these candidates all match your job description based on the conversation you had with a client. Do you want me to reach out to them? As it stands, we are making sure we're still policing that, and we're looking through to make sure that it's picking the right candidates, and so far it is. And the future sort of elevated version of that is it will automatically do the outreach as well. And you're talking about outreaching to however many candidates match the job description instantly, within seconds of getting it from the client, looking through your CRM. The next stage as well is looking externally across job boards, etc., that we're partners with, to then reach out to those candidates to say, we've got a job, are you interested? And it can talk to hundreds of candidates at the same time.
Ava sounds like the sort of HR talent resource that everybody needs.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs, because it deals with the bits that everyone just doesn't really have the time of the day to do, considering the volume of applications that now comes through from people that are not necessarily qualified to do the role because they've seen a nice job and they just thought, or they're spamming applying. How do you feel that AI, Ava, how do you feel that's really going to have an effect on the jobs market from a candidate perspective over the course of the next 18 months, so to speak?
I think from a candidate perspective, it's a positive story. If you're looking for a role, you can get into a process very quickly, rather than, we've got, everyone knows someone who's going through an interview currently or has gone through an interview recently, and the process is protracted. Regardless of which industry you're working in, it's not a quick process. And this will give candidates assurance of, I've put my application in for the job, I've gone through to the next stage, I've met with an interviewer. Within 24 hours that can be done now. Whereas if you're looking to apply for a job, the traditional methods, you could be weeks down the line before you've got an interview date, and that might move, or you might get counter offered in between that. And from a client perspective, you've lost a good candidate. So I think it's only going to benefit both client and candidate over the next few years.
Do you feel that this is going to give you a chance to refine the recruitment process by role as well? We've spoken about the CV kind of semi being a bit obsolete because of AI as well.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the sort of level of compliance required for each of the roles, especially in aviation. But I think it will help with monitoring that compliance at least, and giving you double checks that, a human, if you're juggling multiple roles and multiple candidates with multiple pieces of documentation, there's a risk of error. And I think this is where Ava can get all of that documentation at the same time and collate it all and record it all immaculately, and so therefore the risk of error is massively reduced as well. So I think there's more benefits to having Ava supporting the team from a pace, a personalisation and an accuracy point of view than there is to the traditional method.
Yeah, especially when you deal with compliance related roles, you want to make sure that they tick those boxes before the process even starts.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that once that process has started, because they tick that and Ava's already taken care of that, do you think that the process will change over the course of the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, it probably will. And I'm trying to think where that could happen. I mean, given that there will be more time spent talking to candidates and the more sort of personalised approach, you may find that there is more time given to discussions about well-being and culture that we talked about earlier. And right now there probably isn't the time to have those discussions because of the admin, the rigmarole that goes with recruitment. I think this gives you that opportunity to have a more well-rounded conversation with each candidate, and therefore from a process perspective you may find you're looking to discuss different elements.
Yeah, I think that there's an element that shows now that people very much lean on ChatGPT, on so on and so forth to present themselves, but it's about how do they then present themselves and how does the business then present themselves, because you see more and more people using traditional AI methods just for job descriptions, get a role posted out there, and then someone's just like, right, I'll just take this and I'll chuck that in there, that's my role now. So it'd be good to see how Ava and yourselves sort of like tackle that over the course of the next 18 months as it kind of starts to evolve and we start to see sort of more fancy free tools appear out there that can kind of like help position you in such a way, and sort of see how that develops. We've spoken a little bit about contractor wellbeing before. We sort of like came in here. It's quite a big part of SkyForce. Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, wellbeing's something that I'm a big fan of personally. It's something that I fell into because of circumstance, being at the cusp of being burnt out in the past. And I had to find ways of coping with the level of pressure I was under, the stress I was under, and techniques that helped me manage my own well-being. And it wasn't until I had that in my head and my understanding of how to do things that I started noticing it elsewhere. And within the contractor environment, these individuals are traveling throughout Europe, the world, globally, and typically on their own for long periods of time, without a network around them, with very little in terms of even a cultural piece. Because if you are a contractor working at an organisation, you're not really with that organisation. You're probably there for maybe 3 weeks to 6 months, and then maybe on to something else. So it's hard for them to, I think, feel part of a community and feel like they're getting the support. I mean, like a permanent employee would have employee assistance programs. They would have a whole raft of benefits that a permanent employee gets, and this is where I found the contractors weren't getting that. And it's a high pressure environment that they're working in. There is stories about burnout all over the news from a contractor perspective across industry, but specifically within the aviation industry it's extremely high. So I thought we need to be doing something about giving back to the contractors as well.
And how would you say, like, what was your first steps into doing that then?
Again, talking about my own experience and understanding the methods to take care of yourself and how to give that back to my team was initially how it started, and having conversations with, seeing my team members go through certain events and life events typically, and giving them advice and support on try this, try that. I mean, for me, it's hit the gym in the morning, do some meditating, have a bit of quiet time and do some reading. Pretty straightforward, but it's not straightforward if you don't know what to do. And so little bits like that started sort of growing into a wider interest in well-being. And we had, I'm sure others have had it as well, some really dark stories from contractors over the years where some have tried to commit suicide and things like that, and it's like, well, we must be able to do something that can intervene and give back to stop that from happening.
And what is it that you're really focusing and doubling down on there then? So if I was to become a contractor through SkyForce, what would I look to expect?
Well, you'll get this is a wellbeing app that we provide all our contractors, and it tracks your activity. You can set targets for your steps that you do, etc. A lot of that can come off your wearables, the tech that most people now have with everything that's happening. And as a result of hitting certain targets and the steps that you've done in a day, it will give planet credits and give back to charities and communities that you can select, so that it's something personal to you, so that you feel that in your day-to-day activities you're giving back. Which giving back has multiple benefits already that we're aware of, and how that can make an individual feel. But on top of that, there is access to well-being support, like mental health support, financial support at the end of a phone call, or even a chat message if you don't want to make the phone call, which isn't available to contractors currently.
And how's that gone down so far?
Really well. It's I think there was a few cynical approaches. We don't need that in the typical environment that we work in. I'm fine. But we give it for free, so that they don't have to pay for it. They don't have to sign up for it. It's just that, well, there you go. Use it if you want to. And we're finding that they are using it more than not, which is great, because it's not only the sense of well-being, that actually you can set your own communities up within the app as well. So if there's, say, 6-7 of you at one client location, you can actually set up that as a community that you can have quick chats back and forth. Or we're going down to the beach today, and I want to join us, day off type thing, part of a shift rotation. Where's the nearest chemist? Where's the doctors? These sort of questions, that you've just got that little group that you can feel part of a community, feel a belonging.
There's nothing worse than going somewhere and just being plonked in at the deep end, and then, especially if you're hundreds, thousands of miles away from home and not really knowing who to speak to or what to do. So it's good to see that you're doing something different about bringing sort of like that welfare part to you touched on planet credits and a few bits that you've been speaking about sustainability and things. How is what's SkyForce doing around sustainability then?
So the planet credits is, as we mentioned, that it's in the wellbeing app, so it's based on your activities, but it will give back to local communities, and it will also track carbon offset, which we can report to our clients. So the more candidates that our clients use or take from us, the more they can report, again based on carbon offset of their individual contractor. They can report that as part of their ESG targets. Similarly, for every candidate we place, we will plant a tree, and with the company we use for tree planting, we can capture data based on the carbon capture, and again certified reports that we can give to our clients to say, as a result of having 10 contractors, 10 placements from us, we've planted 10 trees, and here's your quarterly report on the carbon capture. So what we're finding is we're able to give back to our clients. So we're giving back to the planet by being able to offset by planting trees, but also support our clients with their goals to their sustainability targets.
Before we came on air, you kind of spoke about sustainability and the reason why it was important to you. Because you had a quite nice story there about diving a lot. What was your story around that?
Yeah, I mean, we all do our little bits. I think, you've got 3 different bins at home that you're trying to put all your recycling into. You might walk to school instead of taking the car, but I felt like that just wasn't enough. I do travel as part of my role, and I'm conscious of my carbon footprint, but I'm also an avid diver, and when I go diving, I'm seeing less and less fish in the sea. I'm seeing more white coral wherever I go, and it's quite sad to see. So for me, it's like, well, I feel like I should be doing more, and this is my little way of giving back, I think, to the planet, to the environment, and trying to see if I can help make a little bit of a difference. It's
nice to see that, because you work in this space quite a few. I worked in space for a while, and I come across other companies that are into AI, they're into their startups, the tech firms. They kind of like, it's more of a afterthought rather than an actual, there's a purpose and a reason behind it. So it's good to see that alongside the contractor to welfare, having spent some time away from home working on my own as well. It's, I can certainly relate to that. It's not always easy. No. It's the easiest thing to do is go and find a pub and sit in a pub.
Exactly.
And that's not the best way of managing your life when you're away. Perfect. Right, we're going to have a quick look at some of the comments now and questions that have come through in the chat. So I'm going to start sifting through those as we will as we've got them. We won't be able to get through every single one of them today. If you've got a comment on there that doesn't get answered, we'll pass them on to SkyForce, and hopefully they can get back in touch with you and answer any questions that you may have there. First question I've got that's come in here is, with CVs, do they need to be in any specific format when they get sent through to you guys?
I think there's a lot of chat about do I need to formulate my CV to beat the system, with ATS picking this up and picking that up. I think the short answer for us is no. Apply for the job. Ava will come back to you and ask some questions based on the requirements for that job. And if you are the right fit, then we'll have a conversation with you. So the gamification of the CV to beat the ATS, it's not how we're operating. It's very much let's have a conversation, let's talk.
Where can I apply? So I think people are just looking at where can they send their CV through to.
We've got the website. We've also skyforcetalent.co.uk. We've also got our LinkedIn page. Feel free to reach out to any of the team on there as well. And the vacancies page is up and running on skyforcetalent.co.uk. And similarly, we've got live roles on Aviation Job Search as well. So feel free to apply for any of those.
Next question is, where do most of your roles come from, and do you accept people that have visa requirements?
The roles come from our clients across currently Europe, UK and the Middle East. And do we accept visas? That's very much client dependent. If it's a permanent role and the client wants to sponsor it, then yes. If they don't, then it's no.
Okay,
it's quite cut and dry.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a question that comes up quite often on webinars. Next question I've got here is, I don't have much experience, but I want to get into the industry. Can I speak to someone?
Yeah, by all means, get in touch. My team, myself, happy to have conversations and try and help you out there. But I think as well, there's a lot of resources, depending on where this individual is from, but there's a lot of resources out there. I think the first port of call would be universities, colleges, schools, and have conversations about how to get into the industry.
Thank you for that one. How do I get in touch with you guys to set up a demo to see Ava?
Just drop me a note on LinkedIn, or I was going to say, if I got any of my details. No, I haven't got any of my details on here, but yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite responsive on LinkedIn, so yeah, reach out to me there and we'll get something set up.
I've got one here that says, agencies are typically very expensive. It sounds great. Are you going to be more expensive with all of the tech that's required to deliver this?
Good question. No is the short answer. We're not more expensive. I mentioned earlier that we are a lot leaner than your traditional method of recruitment because we've got the technology. So there has been an investment made from us. However, in the long run, it'll not cost us as much to source candidates, but we could also source candidates quicker as well. So, it all pans out. So we've not increased our prices based on what our traditional routes were.
Okay. Are there any roles that you do not recruit for or can't recruit for?
It's a good question. Currently, no is the short answer. I wouldn't. That's a good question.
Would you say that you can pretty much cover most roles?
I'd say we could, yeah. From a database perspective, we're always limited to what's in our database, but when it comes to sourcing outside of our database, then absolutely we can, go for pretty much anything.
How big is that database?
We're currently with 25,000 candidates.
Strong database.
It is, but we've also, as you know, signed up with Aviation Job Search as well.
Yeah, you work with us.
Instantly gives us a bigger footprint as well.
There's a few more questions still coming in, so rather than trying to go through them as we speak at the moment, so we'll pass these on to the guys at SkyForce and they'll get back to you. So if you just put your email address at the end as well, we'll get back to you on that as well. But finally, if anyone's going to remember one thing from today, what is it that you want them to remember about SkyForce?
I think that recruitment's evolving. It's moving at a really quick pace, and aviation recruitment needs to be at the forefront of that, I think, as well. And I would say that because I'm in the industry. But I think the one thing I'd ask people to remember is that we are bringing tech in and AI into the industry, but we are also doing that for the reasons of being more human. We want to spend more time face-to-face with our candidates, we want to spend more time face-to-face with our clients, and we want to give back to both groups and also the planet at the same time.
How would you summarise what SkyForce is?
Rather than me summarising it, why don't we ask Ava?
Let's go.
Ava, what's your thoughts? How would you summarise SkyForce talent?
At SkyForce Talent, we bring together deep aviation recruitment expertise and cutting-edge AI to help our clients hire faster and better. We don't just focus on speed and quality. We keep candidates engaged, support contractor well-being to prevent burnout, and back it all with real, measurable ESG impact. It's recruitment, smarter, more human, and future-ready.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you again to Carlo. Thank you again to SkyForce. And we have been navigating the future of recruitment in aviation today. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thanks for having me.